Our world is growing to be an increasingly overbearing and hostile place. Whether you believe that a full-on collapse is coming or you buy into the idea of a matrix designed to keep you poor and weak, it isn't hard to point out that the trends have recently become very discomforting. People feel something is off, and not many have high hopes for where this is all going. Self-improvement has been the answer by aimless, disenfranchised young men. What once used to be a niche philosophy, often linked with fringe political ideologies, is rapidly growing to be a part of mainstream, not only political, but social discourse. People feel that not only the opportunities our grandparents and great-grandparents were given do not exist anymore, but that the situation has changed so radically it warrants a change to our very selves to face it. A young man in our time indeed faces challenges that only seldom have been so prevalent and tough before. It is perhaps harder than ever to get a fulfilling life, to get the impression you're actually making a change, to find a loyal partner. People have found a marketed solution for every single one of these problems. First and foremost, that of women. More young men are single today than in any other period in the recorded history. At least that's what many people believe, and even if it wasn't the case, it will still be a large enough number to constitute a crisis in its own right. Many young boys have zero male role models for their first 18 years of life. Children of single mothers can go through an all-female teacher school system their whole life, and this is contributing to make it their social interaction once in the adult world rare and effort-intensive, which effectively helps to keep them out of society through no fault of their own. But do not despair. Today, an impressionable young man can find hundreds of courses, methods, and masterclasses not only to get laid, but conduct quite a successful love life. You will learn exactly what to do and what to say in order to achieve your goals, often with a money-back guarantee, and all your insecurities will vanish into thin air once you learn step by step all the rules for engaging with the fair sex. You will learn how to text them, where to take them on a date, when to lean in for a kiss, and especially how to take them back to your apartment or to get in for some coffee. This solves all of our problems, right? Wrong, because while it may look as if the problem is being solved, all these things are really doing is streamlining and racializing social interaction. Through doing what the red pill tells you, you might very well get laid and earn respect from women, but at the cost of bits of your own humanity. The breakdown of monogamy has shaken society to its very core. Now that there is no more pressure on young women to get married, they're free to pick and choose their relationships, and they often do that with extreme selectiveness. While some might regard this as a positive change and a step towards a bright future, for many average men who are not particularly striking either in good or bad, this means more often than not a life of loneliness and rejection. After all, why would a girl bother to settle down for an average guy when the most popular, most muscular man in town will always be ready to have her in his bed? This is where the red pill and such methods will come in, but it falls short on one single goal: make men actual men. They may teach you how to enact a certain set of behaviors, but all of this amounts to simple acting. You will get women, of course, but any relationship you will live will be essentially a lie. Accepting the bad soul and trying to grow something on it, in our case, realizing that, generally speaking, Western women have gotten increasingly picky and unsafe to plan a life with, and trying to display those behaviors that will get at least some guys to have a feminine company in their lives is laudable up to the point where one considers that it is not as much a matter of getting women in isolation, but that our men have no idea on what it means to be a man on a deeper level, to be secure in their identity, to accept the duties and responsibilities society places upon them through the social contract. It is very easy to look at a video and conclude that being a man is about being a confident bragger with a cigar, or journaling and meditating. By reading the right book, anyone can become a man. The 21st century man is plugged by not knowing what it wants to be, by being told what it needs to be, and by believing wholesale the first influencer telling him that the only way to be a real man is to purchase his $900 course on Skillshare. Enacting the right behaviors will not change you. You will become a good actor, but even a good actor is not the hero he's acting as. The truth is much harsher. Masculinity is a learned behavior, and we are in chronic shortage of places where men can be as wild and untamed as their nature allows them to. And instead, our institution only teaches us to be obedient and suppress this nature. This may have worked so long as we had a stake in society, as we would be rewarded for playing the rules with fulfilling jobs and a family to pass down our heritage. So, through enduring and witnessing rejection from the same girls who, just about a century ago, would perhaps have been happy to marry an average-looking, medium-income man, and every year finding their income to be taxed more and more, and their savings being eaten at by inflation, these men have become bitter and enraged at the system they feel cheated by. They shut themselves off from society. They post on forums on the internet, gather together, discuss their ideas, creating echo chambers which ultimately bring them all to the same conclusion: it is simply not worth it to invest in society anymore. They believe the world has broken the social contract, leaving them stranded and fending for themselves. Slowly, they stop even wishing for a woman to get. They find balance in their own condition. In their own words, they refuse to take the Enkidu Gambit. It's called the Enkidu Gambit, and this is why incel has become the insult du jour of the present social mainstream. Women and sex are the most fundamental method to harness the profound energies of men, and use it to benefit society. In the myth of Gilgamesh, Enkidu was a wild and untamed man with tremendous strength and primal power. He was so in tune with nature that could even speak with animals, nor would they flee from him. But he saw a nuisance to Sumeria, so Gilgamesh, the ruler, sent out a temple prostitute to seduce and sleep with Enkidu. Enkidu spent 7 days with his prostitute having sex. Once he was finished, he found out he could no longer understand animals. Not only that, but they fled from his side. He had no choice but to join and become part of civilization. And this is the primary reason why incels arouse such fear and antipathy, because their existence amuses the primal anxiety of society. Enkidu might very well be just off doing his own thing, but society will invariably interpret his existence as dangerous because it is so unpredictable. Because a man not part of society is a man out largely from himself. Both halves of society thus feel deeply apprehensive towards those who aren't having sex, because they recognize this fundamental reality. Those who don't form a relationship and therefore lack of sex life are almost entirely disconnected from society, as disconnected as a wild Enkidu living in the wilderness. An unpredictable variable, and unpredictable variables are invariably threatening to normal people, and especially women, who have much more to fear from societal breakdown or dissidence. For a woman, the best state of society is peaceful, predictable, and ordered. It can be exciting and dangerous, but only to a point. It is fun to dance with a guy who's been in prison several times, but she doesn't want to get raped or murdered. Believe it or not, in the ancient world it was actually pretty common for young men to be cast off into the wilderness, essentially fending for themselves. When society had no more place or need for them, they were quite simply left to their own devices, spending their early years in warrior brotherhoods, in Proto-Indo-European choreos, where they learned to put their strength at the service of violence, taking whether they wanted from whoever they pleased, up until the point where they married and could come back into their tribe or founded a new one altogether. It isn't hard to see a similar pattern, although less dramatic, in how many people today are simply dropping off from society. The purchasing power of their income has dropped sharply and continues to do so every year that passes, and their ability to provide for a family is being attacked is slowly eroded. And at any rate, what good would be having a family, seeing how high the divorce rate is and how much work one should put in just to get what your grandfather got for free? A young virgin, loving wife is slowly becoming such a rare and precious commodity that even the so-called top 1% of men cannot easily find one. This is, in my opinion, what self-improvement community should do alone. Self-improvement will only serve to a degree, but the grim reality is that things will not accept to be changed without putting up a fight. And in order to truly change them, we need to be outside the paradigm. We need to explore new ideas and principles, because the one we have are running us out of our place in the world. Everyone should realize that a man's innate nature is wild and untamed, violent and irrational, and he is all a civilized savage. He may have stopped throwing spears, but his very being demands that he throws spears at something. And once we have no more good reason to keep our young men from taking what they feel the world owes them, we run in the risk of creating a monster which might plague us for decades to come.